Hello, I'm Ian. You're watching Pixels at Dawn, and today we're looking at fast food. So if you've seen my other video of fast food on the Spectrum, you'll know that this is a bit of a two-part series because the port of fast food on the Amiga was entirely different to the version on the Spectrum. So I thought, for a change, it's worth doing a two-parter to get a view of both versions of the game. So if you want the sort of background on fast food, that's all in the Spectrum version. This version we're just going to be having a go and seeing what it's like. The music in the Amiga version is by Alistair Brimble, one of my favourite video game composers. If you've never heard of Alistair Brimble, what you're playing at, go and look up some of his music on YouTube. There's plenty of it around. He's got CDs available should you want them. I have one on my shelf right now. So, a little bit of background. Fast food is basically a Pacman clone. Has ghosts in it. They all act in different ways as per Pacman on the original arcade. And it's all about going around and trying to collect things, in this case food, because this was originally a tie-in game for the Happy Eater chain of motorway restaurants, which you may or may not know. Right, let's pick a world. Easy. Right, so here we go. Pizzas. And all sorts of other things. Quite damn quick, the game, has to be said. I quite like the graphics though. I mean, they're only sort of, blimey. This is actually quite a lot more difficult than the Spectrum version because you were actually faster than the food on the Spectrum, so you could actually catch up with things. Whereas on the Amiga version, you have to try and intercept. It's actually a bit of a different game in that respect. The Amiga version, of course, is based in sort of real-world locations, which makes it all that more surreal. There's randomly food flying around. But, let's see if we can get the chicken. They can just change direction at random as well. Much, much more difficult. I don't know what any of the power-ups are on the Amiga version either, which makes life a bit more difficult. Not that I was particularly sure on the Spectrum version. There we go. Level 3. So we're actually ripping through these pretty damn quickly here. Right. So we can't go through there. That's just a garden bench. So now we've got a ghost to contend with. As with the Spectrum version, you get ghosts introduced slowly through the game that you have to deal with. We've got more lives on this version. We only had 2 to start with, I think, last time on the Spectrum. I don't know. I'm a lot more familiar with the Spectrum version. That's kind of what I associate with. Oh, and here's your every 3 levels you get a nice animation of Dizzy mercilessly slaughtering the ghosts again. And they do seem to be the same ones, just a little bit fancier. You've got actual roadworks in this version rather than just a random steamroller. The boathouse. Okay. Oh! See, that's actually a bit more tricky because you can't actually see the ghosts go out of view behind the building. I didn't realise there was a path joining those 2 bits up, which makes life a bit more difficult. Not sure I'm that keen on that element. Right, let's go and get this one. Yeah, I think I prefer the Spectrum version in terms of the gameplay at least. Blimey, I'm moving far too fast to control now. Blimey. No, chicken. There we go, we got it. I don't know, the controls felt a lot more responsive on the Spectrum version for some reason, and it wasn't quite so insanely fast. The music on the Amiga version is clearly a lot better though. Can't really argue with that. But it's Alistair Brimble, I would expect nothing less. I'll have to do a video on Alistair Brimble at some point. I do plan to at some point have do a series of sort of documentary style videos on classic 8-bit and 16-bit composers, because I don't think they get nearly enough attention. So there'll certainly be an Alistair Brimble episode of that, if I ever get round to doing it. Unfortunately, having an actual job makes these things quite difficult. Gotcha. Jetty Frenzy, okay. I only played this a little bit on the Amiga. I don't remember it that well, if I'm quite honest. I played quite a few of the Dizzy adventure games on the Amiga, but not the arcade games so much. Try and catch up with this chicken before I get killed. This is hard work. So maybe you have some memories of the 16-bit Dizzy arcade games? I don't know. I would quite like to hear your comments in the description. What are your memories of Dizzy in fast food? Oh, I didn't mean to skip that. That was going to be a different one as well. I apologise. Oh well. We'll catch the next one, I guess. Let's go insanely fast. Oh god. We might go back to the future. I've got 5 lives now. I've only died once. That's another change, I suppose, as well, because you could only have 3 lives on the Spectrum. You couldn't actually have more than 3. Whereas here you can just amass a whole load of the damn things. Oh! Speaking of which, there goes my there goes my life. Privet parking. That's not spelt correctly. I'm sure that isn't. Just to be a bit picky. No, no. Yeah, this is getting a lot more difficult. I'm stuck. No! I could have got out of that. I could have got out of that, couldn't I? No good. Right. So again, I'm not going to play through the whole game. It's not a huge game, so I could, but I don't think that'd be too thrilling. We're just here for the experience, really, aren't we? I mean, it's the same thing happens with the Amiga version as with the Spectrum version. So when you reach the end of the game, you start playing all the levels again, but upside down for no apparent reason. Just a cheap way of getting it into an infinite game rather than an unlimited one. I'm not sure I would have had any problem with it being a limited one. I've trapped myself here, but the ghosts have let me get away with it for some reason. Another chicken having me on. Let's see if we can get some fast boots. So I don't know what the difference is between this and the sort of fast forward. Oh, rubbish. I guess the fast forward speeds everything up, whereas the boots just speed you up. That seems to be the case. Right. Doing okay here. Nice graphics. I mean, obviously they're only your original chipset style of graphics. So basically, Amiga 500 style. I have died very quickly there. Well, I guess that's it then. That is much more difficult than the Spectrum version. Much more difficult. But there you go. Oh. Make my mark. Pixel. There we go. Very good. Well, that's fast food on the Amiga. A few differences there. Nice to see both versions there. I love both systems equally. Well, that's what I tell them anyway. I've been in. You've been watching Pixels at Dawn. And I'll see you for another retro game next time.